Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as VRTrader.com. He's speaking to us from Arizona. Happy Thanksgiving, Mark.
Thank you very much. Gobble, gobble.
Do you still have a special offer for our listeners?
Well, I'm trying to keep it going for you guys to give you some incentive. So it's still 2021 since it's still 2021. So it's 2021 half off. And that's 82021 HALFOFF. And you go to VRTrader.com. And any of the letters that you order, when you open them up, there's a little promo code space there, and you just enter 2021 half off, so you get 50% off for any of the letters for any time frame, whether it's a 1 month or 1 year subscription. So I encourage people, if they like the letter, I think they're going to like it, take the 50% off for the year now, as long as we have the special. So that's how you do it.
President Biden seems like he wants to get into a crude oil war with OPEC. And I wonder, when people say we don't understand his policies, we don't here in Canada either, because the first thing he did was cancel the XL pipeline, which would have brought cheaper Canadian oil down to the U.S. to be processed in Louisiana. And now he's asking OPEC and China to produce more oil. Well, why would you want to stop good old Canadian oil where we follow environmental rules for somebody who likes to murder journalists? Why is their oil better?
Maybe he's in bed with the Saudis the way he's in bed with China. I mean, that's the only thing I could surmise. But along those lines, he came, during this past few days, the story came out that, gas prices are out of control, so he was going to ask the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, to investigate oil giants' pricing. So suddenly the surge in oil prices has to do with supposed conspiracy of the oil companies. Doesn't have to do, like you say, with shutting down pipelines or perhaps discouraging the exploration of new energy because green energy is going to take off. So we're going to have electric vehicles, so we don't need oil anymore. And suddenly there's shortages because people that are in the business don't want to go out there and put money and time into something that won't pay off for them. So now he thinks that an investigation of their pricing conduct. I mean, you just wonder, either the press for this guy is so miswritten, or the man is so stupid that it's just incredible. I mean, if there's less supply, there's going to be higher prices. And I don't know whether the Saudis are going to go along with increasing production or not. So we'll see. The whole thing is just absolutely crazy. And at some point, you just wonder if the Saudis are just going to ignore all this green energy stuff. They're just going to say, well, we're in it to make money, which is why we do it. And, we really don't care so much about green energy. So all the talk about it here in the U.S. or in Canada may be, totally irrelevant if the rest of the world is just out there to drill for oil and make money. But as you know, prices did go up for oil because of that concern. But, technically it got overbought, and we seem to be in a little correction for oil now. So I'm actually long an inverse ETF for oil, thinking we get a little bit more of a pullback here because it ran up so much. But on a bigger picture basis, I mentioned this before, I think, much higher prices are coming because of this ongoing stupidity.
British Columbia held an inquiry into high gasoline prices. Vancouver pays the highest gasoline prices in North America. Due to the taxes we have an 18.5 cent a liter tax, 4 liters to the U.S. gallon roughly, so multiply that by 4 times, you can see why we pay so much for gas. But the BC inquiry into gasoline prices wasn't allowed to ask about government taxes or government policies that would concern supply. Well, you take that out of the equation, I guess it is the oil companies. The oil companies get a fraction of the price that's charged at the pump. It's all soaked up. And in Canada, not only do we have provincial taxes, federal taxes, the federal government has put a tax on the taxes. It's insanity here. So, any inquiry into, gasoline prices, it's already cooked. I'm sure the investigators have been told you can't look into this, you can't look into policies and so on. They just want to point the fingers at the oil companies. By the way, we have politicians in Canada, and I'm sure in the U.S., screaming for oil and gas exploration to stop this very minute. Well, we don't have the electric vehicles or battery technology yet to replace all the gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles yet. What would that do to the economy?
Right.
Yeah, everything would just stop. And I was told by the trucking association, remember, everything in your house was in a truck at some point. Everything. So, what's the replacement for that? None of these people crying for oil and gas exploration to stop have said, well, what's the bridge technology between this and windmills that don't always work? And solar power that doesn't work on a rainy day like here. I have a little solar garden on my balcony that faces south, and I have lots of pretty lights that come on at night. Not today in Vancouver, where I can't see across the valley or see the mountains because of the heavy rain. And I can guarantee those solar lights won't come on tonight either.
You're having really a rainstorm over there, and you're telling me there's several fronts have come through and more coming. So it's, we can talk about nuclear, too, as a backup. When the lights go out, people start wondering, how the power is going to be generated, and how is all the power going to be generated for all these electric vehicles in the next 10 or 20 years. So there's a lot of issues ahead. Lights may go off, and unfortunately, on the nuclear side, it takes about 10 years to get a nuclear operation approved and underway, maybe more than that. Frankly, that's the answer. People have been afraid of nuclear, but that's the answer. You get nuclear submarines and battleships that could stay out for years. You got spaceships now run by nuclear that don't need any refueling. That's really the answer to the energy crisis worldwide. Forget solar, and geothermal and wind. These are all fun things. On some property that I had, I put some solar panels in, a little wind thing, and it's fun to look at and play with, but it just doesn't generate enough energy to really run your whole operation by any stretch. I had a well that I was trying to get solar power to generate enough power to run the pump for the water. It just couldn't generate enough power to operate the pump because it was down so far. So, I respect it. Solar, energy. God, it's been around since the 1930s, 1940s. I know back in Florida, they had these solar, tubes and stuff on the roofs back in the 1930s. It's been around forever, but is it enough to really replace all our needs? Ultimately, it's a compliment. I think it's a statement on the part of companies to demonstrate that they're supposedly environmentally friendly and so forth, but the demands for energy are just going to be so great going forward, it's just not going to happen. So, it's a good conversation to have here. I think, ultimately the stupidity will go by and people come to their senses about what's really, really needed.
At the World Environment Conference on climate change, Germany and Poland, who you'd think might be kind of green, the Green Party in Germany said, hold on a second here. If we don't want to import natural gas from Russia, so let's go and dig up more coal for our power plants. And that's the Green Party in Germany, because they didn't want to shut down their own coal fields. It's okay if everybody shuts down theirs, but not Germany. So everybody's out protecting their own interests. They don't care about the entire overall planet. And what's cleaner? Just ask the average person. Would you rather have a coal-fired power plant down the valley or one running on natural gas?
So, honestly, I guess natural gas, but, there's scrubbers and everything, that can eliminate or reduce the
problem is
emission.
these people don't want to go through the expense. And yeah, the carbon from coal can be captured and turned into useful carbon fiber products. But again, the countries that want to use it are trying to go cheap and dirty. Otherwise, they would go for a more expensive solution.
I'm in your camp. Makes sense to me, Jim.
I know it does. So we have President Biden now. When he said he was urging China to produce more oil, and they are the 7th largest oil producer in the world. Canada's number 5. But the thing is, they consume all of their oil, and most of it is dedicated to their military. Their citizens don't see it in action, and that came to me from Joseph Schachter, a good friend of the show, with the Schachter Energy Report. So China really, they don't want to play ball. Russia doesn't want to play ball. India doesn't want to be part of this thing. Well, that's a third of the planet's energy users and producers. What can little Canada do? We've had carbon taxes, by the way, in British Columbia for 12 years, and our emissions have gone up every year except 2008 at the height of the recession. So charging people more at the pump, if they don't have an alternative that's affordable, and for most people, electric cars are not affordable. They're $80,000 to over $100,000.
Pretty expensive. Expensive.
And where are we going to get all these battery metals? Do you have any idea? And how are the investments in battery metals doing?
Right. Well, we need the lithium and the palladium and all that. And of course, that's mining operations. They haven't come down on them yet, have they? Are they going to try to shut down or discourage production of the metals for environmental reasons? And then you won't have the key ingredients for the EV vehicles, among other things that we need. But you need oil and energy from oil to mine these operations and to produce the products. So I'm not a geologist or a chemist to give you all the details, but it's really funny out there what's going on. I just hate to use that expression. Liberalism is a mental disorder because people get angry at me, but it seems like it's part of that. I mean, you just don't think about the facts. You just think about your emotions and what you're trying to accomplish. So if you really want to get rid of oil, you got to understand that you really can't. It's still part of our production and industrial system, and you're going to have to try to reduce emissions and so forth at some point if you want to, protect the environment. But you can't go to a zero situation. It just doesn't work. The world's too big, plus the fact the rest of the world is probably less concerned about it than here in the U.S., though they talk about it. As you say, China and other places. I mean, whatever it's going to make the most money is going to drive the dollar or the currency. So I don't know if we're going to see all this in our lifetime or even more 2 lifetimes. I just think it's more of a dream than reality, but perhaps we'll uncover some remarkable new energy source. Something will come out of the blue that will just replace everything, and it'll be Star Trek all over again,
Well,
what they call it, the lithium crystal?
Dilithium crystal. Dilithium crystals, Captain. They're melting down. She ain't going to give us the power.
Right. So maybe the dilithium crystal is going to be our solution, but we haven't discovered it yet, So maybe we'll be all surprised, right?
Yes, electric cars. The average electric car will need 83 kilograms or 883 pounds of copper, and that means we'd have to increase our copper production by 277% to meet the demand. That's just a little research I did instantly here.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. That's from February this year. That research was released. So, they're going to take an incredible amount of lead, zinc, cobalt, lithium, whatever is in the batteries. And again, we don't have the mines open to do that. And lead, zinc, the primary component in most batteries, all of the major mining areas for lead, zinc have shut down. They're closing down on a yearly basis. And we're not finding more. Where's that going to come from?
Maybe mining an asteroid. What do you think?
Sure, the one that we're going to talk about in just a minute. We'll have more with Mark Leibovit right after this.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mark Leibovit. I know some people say, what does this have to do with money? Well, you can invest in this in some way if you're in the aerospace industry or supplying materials to NASA or SpaceX. Launched yesterday, DART, the double asteroid, I don't know, I'm calling it reverse terrain, whatever. But DART is what it stands for. The idea is a small satellite is going to be launched from Earth, which left yesterday, and in October next year it'll impact a very small asteroid nowhere near us, so if the experiment goes wrong, we shouldn't be destroyed by it. But they want to see how much energy it takes to nudge an asteroid one way or another so it doesn't run into the Earth and cause a catastrophic event like the extinctions that wiped out so many generations of dinosaurs, 60 and then 120 and 300 million years ago.
And, not to mention the fact you had mentioned off air back in the mid-1960s, a huge asteroid came pretty close to the Alberta area, and that's something I hadn't even known about. Which
it was Christmas Eve, 1965. They said it was the size of a mountain. They never said how big the mountain was. I saw it. It happened about 8:00 at night. I'm near the Northwest Territories Alberta border. I go out to get the dog, and this bright, the size of a full moon, maybe bigger, goes across the sky, the most intense turquoise I've ever seen. It left a white streak in the sky for minutes. I run in, tell my mom, hey, I saw a meteor, and of course, she goes, oh, good for you. It was only decades later when I was researching, possible impacts, I found out about it. It came as close as 60 miles to the Earth, which is about 100 clicks. But it came in at a very shallow angle and skipped off the Earth's atmosphere. Otherwise, northern Alberta, Saskatchewan, and a good piece of the Northwest Territories would just be a big crater right now.
People sort of think we're joking when we bring up asteroids, and I actually have it as a report that you can get from one of the space tracking websites. I put it into my newsletter, and they list all the there's a long list of all the asteroids that are being tracked. Their distance from Earth, not real close. Sometimes they measure them in lunar distances, like the distance between the Earth and the Moon, and multiple lunar distances from us, and so forth. And people say, what are we talking about all this for? I mean, they're serious attempts to monitor this stuff. We know the consequences if we don't pay attention to it. We've joked about our advanced technology that we might have out there. I believe we have out there that we could possibly already doing this type of test or even landing on. I think there's already been a probe that's already landed on one of the asteroids. I saw pictures, I believe, not too long ago.
And it has brought back, or it's bringing back samples.
Right, and talking about mining the asteroids, because some have tremendous ones. There's one picture I put in my newsletter. It's like one asteroid. They estimate there's enough gold on that asteroid, for a number that's so large, it's got so many zeros after it. If it was actually brought to Earth, it would drive the value of gold to almost nothing because of the tremendous quantity that it exists out there in the solar system. So many things can change so dramatically. I mean, gold could be so valuable today and worth zero, in 100 years from now when we find out we can mine unlimited amounts of it on an asteroid and bring here. The question is it only for monetary purposes? And it's not that. We need it in technology. We need it in all kinds of, equipment and circuit boards and you name it. I mean, it's actually a valuable, important ingredient in all the advances that we make in our daily living. So, just because it's not worth as much doesn't mean it's not as important. Of course, the ancients believed that gold was, not so much for monetary value, but for health. I mean, I can show you all these articles of people wear gold in the ancient times because they thought it brought health to people, that it just was there's a reason why all these palaces and these temples and these pyramids were covered with gold, because apparently it had some great miraculous healing or, religious purpose beyond the monetary value. So, there's so many interesting stories we can get into about it. But anyway, going back to the asteroid thing, it's fantastic that someone like Elon Musk is involved in this because, as you know, I've broadcast my highest regards for him. It wouldn't surprise me at all he's involved in a project like this, and it wouldn't surprise me at all that we've already done some of the kind of testing that he's talking about in this asteroid test. So it's really remarkable that we have someone like that out there doing things. And even though he's made all this money and people might be somewhat jealous of it, I mean, he's the Edison of our time. It's amazing stuff.
Yes, he's not just shipping parcels like Jeff Bezos is with Amazon. He's actually, I think, trying to improve the outlook for humanity. And another thing that Elon Musk really impressed me with, when his car production lines weren't getting enough cars out, he went and slept there to make sure everything was going right. And I don't see Jeff Bezos doing that. I don't see him going on to into his warehouses and peeing in a bottle so that he never leaves the production line there.
You know, Bezos sort of made up for it by flying up in one of his space capsules there for a few minutes. So I guess he tried to make up for that a little bit. But he doesn't have the advanced thinking and scientific knowledge or in foresight that someone like Elon does. No question about it. I mean, it's completely different. I mean, Bezos is obviously a great capitalist, but I don't think he's anywhere in the Elon camp. But anyway, just fantastic stuff going on. And, Elon is concerned about the future of humanity and, why Mars. I mean, theorists believe that we came from Mars. I mean, Mars might have been a dying planet and people came here and we're just going back home again. There are all these theories about, things that are left there and artifacts and things that might be on Mars. So it's maybe not the dead planet forever that people thought it is, but the bottom line is we have to think about the future. I mean, will the Earth be here forever? Will there be natural disasters if we don't prevent an asteroid? What if there's a polar shift on the planet, which has occurred in the past, and a polar shift could wipe out civilization if the Earth shifted a couple degrees? It might have done this in the eons of time that before us, and that could have changed. That's why we see pictures or stories that Antarctica used to be all green and it's not all ice as it is now. And what happened to the instant freezing of some of these ice age mammals, like they found a mastodon that was apparently frozen instantaneously with food still in its stomach. This came out years ago. What kind of cold wave could have come through fast enough to have done something like that? Maybe it was a polar shift, and if something like that happened now, we're going to be dead really quick. You know what I mean? So planning for another place to go like Mars is really, an insurance policy. Nothing is forever. Our lifespans are so short, and our vision is so short based on the times that have preceded us and the billions of years of geologic activity. We have to be thinking on a bigger scale. So someone like Elon's doing that, and I think it's fabulous.
Well, at some point, the sun will become a red giant, and where the Earth's orbit is will be part of the sun. So
right.
If we want to survive, we'll have to move out. Actually asked the University of British Columbia Physics Department, what gets the Earth first? The moon, whose orbit is decaying by about 1/4 of an inch a year and coming closer to us, or the sun becoming a red giant? Folks, it's sun becoming red giant gets Earth first in 3 billion years.
Right. And not only that, we've got the solar flare issue that we keep talking about. It's quiet right now, by the way, but we had a little surge here, but the pattern seems to be in an upward trend. And, where we get another Carrington event type situation coming in the next few years or the next few decades, and suddenly there's a surge of power from the sun, a flare so great that it knocks out all our power systems and everything else. And I think you had mentioned that there's been very little preparation or concern about such an event. So, another Carrington event, another giant solar flare, we're all going to be using our wood-burning stoves.
Now, getting into cryptocurrencies, the president of El Salvador, where Bitcoin is now legal currency, wants to build a city dedicated to mining Bitcoin and education to be powered by geothermal vents from an active volcano. I don't know about setting up shop next to an active volcano or not. Is this guy, again, so many people like Hillary Clinton are saying, oh, he's crazy, he's nuts. Is he a visionist like Elon Musk looking at the future? If we're going to have cryptocurrencies around, why not take advantage of them?
That's a terrific story. I mean, that's one I haven't heard. Absolutely. Why not use geothermal or volcanic energy to create power. I mean, this was a big concern about mining for the cryptocurrencies, particularly Bitcoin. That's the one that, really requires all the power and energy and computer banks and so forth, and that's what pissed off China, and they wanted to close it down, and now they took it back in again. And what was the story? That the mine for Bitcoin takes as much energy as it takes to run the country of Argentina or something like that. So, I mean, if you can get away from conventional energy sources, that's genius at work. I'm in agreement on that one.
Yes, he plans to build a Bitcoin city in the shape of a coin at the base of the volcano. And so far, he said he's made enough money on Bitcoin that he can fund something like 20 new hospitals and schools, and also an animal hospital, which his country didn't have.
You see, you can't make stuff like this up, Jim. I'm telling you. They always say reality is greater than anything you can create in fiction. It's like this thing that would happen with COVID last year. I mean, although there was some speculation about that type of event, I mean, we have the reality of it, is greater than anything any fiction novel could have imagined. So this is genius with the volcano. I think it's fantastic. I still want to be there when it goes off, right?
Well, just capture that energy. You can mine Bitcoin for the next million years. Mark, anything else we should be keeping a close eye on right now?
Well, let's see here. Looks like as far as the market's concerned, we had that full moon on the 19th last Friday, and the S&P topped out just a day trading day after that, and seems to be in a little pullback. So we had a little overlap of lunar energy with the equity markets. And my personal opinion is you're probably going to see more of a sell-off into early December. Of course, we also have a new moon due here, I believe, on the 4th of December. So that it might tie in where you might get a sell-off into that time frame, as I just mentioned, and that would be overlapping the new moon. So just interesting stuff there on the geocosmic level that I've been looking at. And as we sort of covered over very briefly the oil situation, talking about Biden and stuff, but sure looks like to me that maybe crude oil is topped out here short term, along with the other markets. And of course, the whole stock market seems to be holding its breath for the Federal Reserve, what they're going to do and not do here. And apparently in their last meeting, they started talking more about tapering, and some of the various Federal Reserve members, talking about getting more aggressive about that. So we'll see how that all comes out. The basic thought is that inflation is much greater and stronger than the regulators are really talking about, and at some point they're going to have to react in a much stronger, faster, bigger way, which could really scare the market. So that's why there's a lot of chatter about next year, 2022, not being as good a year for the markets, that if you get the regulators, the Fed getting in there and deciding they want to jack rates up or move too quickly to catch up with what they probably should have done up to this point, that's sort of an unnerving factor. And then the fact that many money managers, have big profits in stocks this past year, and, are they going to hold on to those until the end of the year, or are they going to cash out begin January 1st, which could drive the markets down? So that'll be the question, is that they want to ring the register, take their profits for the year, and the end of the year it doesn't become as strong or as strong as it could be, or will they wait to early January? So this sort of, we got to watch the indicators from, the Santa Claus rally is coming up theoretically. So my gut feeling is maybe we sell off into early December and then have a little bit of that Santa Claus rally, and then we'll see what unfolds into the beginning of the year. But you know how I think about stuff, Jim. I mean, not everything is based on what the Fed does and doesn't do. I mean, there's always these outlier events and things that come up that nobody can predict that could affect the market. So it's interesting, but I think the bottom line is, markets are really high, equity markets are really high, and we've had a big move here, and we are due for something. So gotta stay on your toes here, and I wouldn't be, super bullish on the markets into the end of the year. I might be modestly bullish, but I would be careful.
Mark, I hope you recover from all the turkey, gravy, dressing, and so on.
Trying to, but a bunch of leftovers are sitting on the table here, so I got to be careful. Thank you.
My guest has been Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as vrtrader.com. If you have any questions for Mark, he'll be glad to answer them if you send that question to info@howstreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter at House Street. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of House Street Media Incorporated.